Do you want to play a Sonic game?
Welcome back to the No Super Peel Out Zone podcast. Did I do it right?
Close enough.
I like that one.
No, it's good because this game also has the super peel out.
Yeah.
But it's not called that in this game. It's called like the Strike Dash or something.
It is called Strike Dash. I'm looking at it right now.
And Tails Flying is called Airman
Tails.
That's really dumb.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
this week on the podcast. Well, hold on. We gotta introduce ourselves.
This week on the podcast, I'm Steven.
All right.
But next week he could be someone else. Hi,
Charlie
I'm Charlie.
was supposed to start. All right, that's Charlie, and I'm Isaiah, and together we're all freaking ridiculous. So this week we played Sonic Chaos for the Sega Game Gear.
I played this on Sonic Adventure DX as I usually do with these Game Gear games, but
Is that the Master
Okay.
System or the Game Gear version? Because I found out that the Master System version came out first, and there actually are some differences.
Oh,
what
are the differences?
It's the Game Gear version according to the wiki.
Okay. And Isaiah, I assume you played the Game Gear version.
yes, I did play the Game Gear version. What are the differences?
So the major difference that mattered to me when I was looking it up was that the screen size on the Game Gear version is smaller in just pixel count, and they don't account for that when they're using the camera. So you literally just can't see everything, and that causes it, when you die, or not die, but get hit and lose rings, they bounce upwards, and then more often than not, they'll just hit the barrier on the top of the screen and disappear, so you can never get your rings back.
It
Yeah.
usually comes back down for me.
It only does it in the boss fights, I think.
That's the only time I need him to
Yeah.
come back.
Exactly, yeah.
So I was actually going to comment about that camera thing because there were a lot of times throughout this game where I felt like you needed to be able to see something, or at the very least predict that the camera would be in a place that there's no way that you would you would just have to know better.
Yeah.
But I guess that's a camera problem that the Game Gear version had and not the other version.
I mean, I'm sure it's not perfect in the other version. I would like to mention, though, that this game is so straightforward that generally in a situation where you feel like you need to know what's coming ahead, it's usually either a 50-50 between rolling or jumping, and it's pretty clear when you're supposed to do one of the two. You're just not sure which one you're supposed to do until you play the level a couple of times.
Yeah, I remember there was a specific level, like the second zone, where it was like, yeah, here's a bunch of spikes, and now here's a trip upwards that if you take will actually take you back to the beginning of the level, but you'll have more rings. So actually what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to jump over this pit of spikes that you can't see beyond, and just trust that there will be a platform on the other side of those spikes.
There's a bunch of spots in this game where you're supposed to fall down to get rings, and that didn't make sense to me right away, but did you guys ever get 100 rings while playing as Sonic the Hedgehog?
Yes.
Okay.
Not as playing as Sonic, but as Tails, yeah.
Okay, so when you're playing as Sonic and you get 100 rings, I think we usually save the special stage for later, but we're gonna get to it right away because I think it really matters for the game design.
Yeah.
When you get 100 rings as Sonic, you teleport to a unique stage, and it's not like other games where you teleport to a mini game with a slightly different arrangement. You teleport to a different game, basically.
Yeah.
There are, I think there's only 6. I don't think there's 7 of them, but or there might only be 5. Hold it.
There are 5. I've got the
Yeah,
map data up, and there's 5 of them.
Yeah, because Eggman has one of the Chaos Emeralds, and you collect 5 throughout the secret stages, and then if you have 5 and you beat the final boss, he drops the last one or something. But these stages each have a unique design, and they're more about getting to the end of a tiny little level as opposed to getting enough rings. And so they simultaneously serve as a way to get Chaos Emeralds, but you can also collect a ton of rings during most of them and get a lot of free lives.
During the first one in particular, there are a lot of rings. I actually didn't understand that these were supposed to be for the Chaos Emerald the first time around, so I just, systematically collected all the rings, and I got, 10 one-ups.
Yeah, but you also didn't get the Chaos Emerald.
I also did not get the Chaos Emerald.
And then you found out about the Chaos Emeralds, and I'm sure you felt terrible.
Yeah. I was like, wait a second, I was supposed to, and then the second time around, I was like, oh, okay. What's interesting is if you don't clear, in the other Sonic games, if you don't clear a special stage, you don't get to try that one again next time. You have to, like, cycle through them.
I mean, some of them you do. It's kind of, it differs between game.
It does differ between games, but in this game, if you don't get through Special Stage 1, you get to keep trying it, or the next time you get to a special stage, you go to Special Stage 1, so you can try that again until you get past it, or get to the end of the game.
Yeah, I hated that because the third one is, to my understanding, impossible. And I wanted to see the other ones. Like, I did the third one, I think, 4 times before I was like, nope, never playing this game again.
Oh man, I'm looking at the map for the third one, and I'm not liking it. I actually I never got to the third one. I got 2 Chaos Emeralds, but I never actually got to the third special stage. So one thing that I want to say about not being able to advance, or not having to advance, right, is that Special Stage 1 has the most rings, so if you really wanted to, you could just play Special Stage 1 over and over and get, like, the most amount of lives.
Not only that, but you also get continues for every, like, point total you hit. And I think you get a free continue for grabbing the Chaos Emerald, I'm not sure.
I believe that you do.
It's something like that. This game hands you a lot of lives, which I think is nice, because even though it's got that tricky design, like you said, a lot of the time, they give you enough lives that you can die a lot on a level and still figure out what's going on.
They give you a lot of continues, too, and the continues are, like, they're basically lives because it doesn't, like, take you to the beginning of the zone, it just takes you back to the beginning of the act you were on, so...
Yeah, it's like a 3-life pack.
I mean, I believe it resets your score, but also, does that matter?
No.
Yeah, well, it kind of does, because for every 50,000 points or something, you get more lives, but that's it. And it's not, like I said, this game hands you lives enough that if you're going to a special stage, like, once every other zone, chances are you'll be fine. But the only problem is that Special Stage 3 doesn't have any rings in it. So if you get stuck on Special Stage 3, there's basically no advantage to getting 100 rings unless you've cracked the code, which I think is just holding right at a certain point when you enter a tube. But, like, it's not good at telling you that, and then I hated that one.
Yeah.
So, what Special Stage 3 is, just in case anyone's curious, is you start in this little sewer area where you look to your right and there's a invincibility block and behind it a tube. So you break that invincibility block, you shoot into the tube, and that tube spins you around twice and then spits you into a room with the exact same layout. Invincibility thing and all, it's just a square with a tube on the right side. So you break that invincibility block, you go into the tube, and this repeats like 5 times. And I thought that it was some kind of weird, like, wraparound where it was respawning because it happened so much. And I was like, well, what the hell am I supposed to do? So I tried, like, not doing that and going to the left or the right, and no, you just have to keep doing that over and over again, and it just burns 30 seconds for no reason. And then you get into an actual different area where you fly up a tube, and it looks like there's an offshoot, but this game kind of functions similarly to the way that a lot of other Sonic games do, where there are tubes that take you places, but if you hold a direction, you can go a different way than the one you're just already headed. Like that stage in Sonic CD last time.
Yeah, Stardust Speedway.
Well, there's also in the mechanical one, they have them as well.
Oh yeah. Well, those like stop you at intersections, but
yeah, they're nice.
These
do not at all.
These do not.
And basically, if you miss the time when you're supposed to hit a direction, which by the way, you would not know which direction you were supposed to hit until after getting there.
Yeah, because you move way too fast and the camera is way too zoomed in, so you just can't see the intersections in time.
Well, not only that, but literally you wouldn't know which intersection you're supposed to go to, so even if you could freeze the game, you're still got a 50-50 shot. But basically, if you don't push any direction, or if you push the wrong direction, you get shot up into another room. There's just a shit ton of springs that bounce you back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and then shoot you into the same, like, tube again. And then again, if you don't hit the right direction, you just get shot into that room. And by the time you've done this, you're already, like, more than halfway down on the timer, because each stage only lets you stay in there for, like, a minute. So basically, the first part of the stage exists only to take a long time. It's not challenging at all, it just takes a long time so that you forget what you're supposed to do and are frustrated by the end of it. And it sucked because I really liked the first 2. I thought they were super fun.
Yeah, I think this particular stage would be a lot more fun zoomed out, but, like, zoomed out a lot.
Yeah, you should just be able to see the whole thing, maybe. And also, don't design that part where you waste 30 seconds. Just make the timer 30 seconds.
It really is. I'm looking at the map data, and the exact same pipe layout and room like size and shape appears 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times.
Yeah, it's awful. It doesn't make any sense, and they give you invincibility for no reason. I feel like it's just there for them to have like a TV or a monitor that isn't rings, so you literally don't get anything from this.
Yeah. It should at least be rings.
Right? But it's just there to like stop you for a second. Like, it's awful. It's the worst stage design I've ever seen in a Sonic game. But the first two are really cool. We'll get off this in a minute, Charlie, so that you can actually talk about something, because I know you didn't play any of the special stages.
Something that's worth mentioning, and I'm gonna look at Special Stage 4's map while I say this, is that when you get to a special stage, you go through that special stage, and then when you're done, you don't have to play the rest of the level that you were in beforehand. You just go right to the next level.
Yeah, it's more like a warp as well as a chance to get a Chaos Emerald, which is nice because that means that you aren't punished for like getting 100 rings. You still get something.
Yeah, and there were actually like 2 different stages where I was very frustrated by the level layout, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna collect 100 rings and I'm out of here.
I was never so frustrated by a level layout that I found it easier to get 100 rings and actually beat the level.
I don't know. There's some places. Oh, I was literally when I stopped playing, I was literally at the last act of the last zone in the game. I should have kept playing for a little bit longer.
There was no stage in this game that I found it difficult to finish in more than 30 seconds.
30 seconds. I mean, it always took me like 1 to 2 minutes to clear a stage.
Yeah, I mean, I played the game twice, but like the minute I started playing as Tails, and I didn't finish it fast because of Tails' flight. He flies super slow in this game.
Oh
His
my
flight,
god,
I
yeah.
think, is exclusively for like figuring level layouts out, so that when you can go back as Sonic, you can get 100 rings. But while I was playing as Tails, I never found it challenging to get there in 30 seconds. And like, I think his jump height and everything is the same as Sonic's. So.
I mean, I was just gonna say I played as Tails and I didn't get any special stages, and I was
can't,
like,
yeah.
and I was just like, oh, that's funny, and I just kept going around my business, and then after I beat the game, I'm like, wow, the game didn't like get like not angry. It didn't make fun of me for not getting the emeralds, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then I turned off the game.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's basically easy mode, really.
It is. You also start with 4 continues.
Oh my god,
Oh.
that is true.
Yeah, so Tails is easy mode, but really Tails is fun mode, because in Sonic, like playing in Sonic, you have to go to the 3rd special stage.
Yeah, I played as Tails for only a little bit. I didn't play for that long because as soon as I found out you could not get Chaos Emeralds as Tails, I was like, well, I have to just keep playing as Sonic because I gotta see that. I gotta see that content. But I never got to the 3rd stage, the 3rd special stage.
Well, the crazy thing is, when you beat the game as Tails, you just get the good ending.
Oh, you don't even have to.
Yeah, you literally get the ending that Sonic gets if he gets all the emeralds. So there's no reason to play as Sonic in this game, unless you want to see the bad ending.
Well, what if I also want to see the special stage content?
Oh! Yeah, well, there is that until you get to stage 3.
Also, which by the way, I'm looking at the map for Special Stage 5. You would not have been happy with Special Stage 5's map.
No, yeah, I read up on the special stages, and it was like, they feature platforming, the usage of the game's various gimmicks, and labyrinths. And I was like, well, I'm glad I didn't get any further than 3.
Yeah. Stage 4 looks fine. It looks like you're just like running across a series of hills that admittedly are filled with springs that throw you backwards, but
Yeah, I mean, I'd be fine with that.
yeah.
There was only one obstacle in this game that I was never able to, like, get around without getting hit. But
Yeah.
we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, overall, the first 2 special stages are super fun. The first one, you're using Sonic's rocket shoes, which are unique to this game.
Mm-hmm.
Tails can't access those either, Charlie, so...
Oh yeah, I saw that. I remember having them once, and I was like,
Yeah,
weren't there rocket shoes? And then I guess that
You played as Tails.
Yeah.
You got the better experience, but the worst game.
Yeah. That,
There's a trade-off.
That sounds right.
But yeah, Sonic's rocket shoes are really cool, and you don't get to experience them for very much during the regular gameplay, because they always run out after like 5 seconds or something. But in the first special stage, you have them permanently, and it's really fun to just fly through the sky and get a bunch of rings. And it kind of reminded me of like playing newer Sonic games where you have to know ring paths and stuff like that, but it's not in a gratuitous way like Sonic 2's special stages. There's just an up and down repeating pattern, and then there are some bigger rings that you can capitalize on if you remember where they are, and then you just get the Chaos Emerald at the end. And if you're going straight right the whole time, and you accidentally shoot past the Chaos Emerald, which you can do, you have enough time to realize what happened and then just turn around and go get it. It's very, very forgiving, unlike Stage 3.
Unlike Stage 3, which serves predominantly to waste your time. Like,
yeah,
literally.
Stage 2 is also nice because it's a usage of this game's gimmick where you can hop on a spring. It's like Spring Mario from Galaxy. You just ride in a spring and it automatically jumps you. But just like Yoshi from Super Mario World, you can jump off of him by hitting a button, and he gets rid of the spring, and it gives you kind of a double jump. It's really fun.
There's also, so there's two paths in that particular zone. One where you use the spring, and one where you can just not. You can just be like, I don't feel like using the spring, so I'm not going to.
Yeah, and the one with the spring is further ahead, so you're inclined to get the rings first. Basically, there's a path with rings, and there's a path with springs.
Yeah.
And they meet in the middle, halfway up, where you get a time extension, which is interesting, because I feel like they should just give you a longer timer. But I feel like they programmed these all to be a minute, which is why that awful, awful, awful third stage exists. Because they just didn't want to adjust any amount of programming.
Yeah. They couldn't make, like, a time, like, shortener thing that you pick up, because that would be just rude.
Actually, they could. That could literally be the thing you have to hit to get into the tube.
Yeah, they did put a capsule there.
Yeah, no, it's obscene. But Charlie, tell me how you felt about the first stage.
It was pretty straightforward. There was nothing really bad about it. It's called Turquoise Hill, isn't it?
Yeah, Turquoise Hill.
Really mixing it up.
Yeah, I like that they were like, alright, we've had it with the color green for now.
What about Emerald?
That's why I said for now.
Well, yeah, but Sonic 2 started that by not having... And then Palm Tree Panic doesn't even have, like, the word hill in it.
Alright, look. So, Sonic 1 for the Game Gear had Green Hill Zone. Sonic 2 had something that was basically Green Hill Zone, but I don't remember what it was.
Do you mean Sonic 2 for the Game Gear?
Yeah, what did I say?
You said Sonic 2 without anything after that.
Yeah, Sonic 2 for the Game Gear.
Yeah.
Doesn't Sonic 2 on the Game Gear have, like, Green Hills Zone?
I couldn't tell you,
so.
because that game is bad.
Yeah, that's fair.
There's some game that has Green Hills Zone.
I think that's actually Sonic 1 for the Game Gear, I thought.
No.
It might be. So, interestingly, this game has a zone that I want to hear you guys' thoughts on, which is it has, like, Mechanical Green Hill Zone.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was
Mecha
really
Green
cool.
Hill Zone, you mean?
Or Mecha Green Hill Zone, that's right. Thank you for correcting me.
I actually really liked Mecha Green Hill Zone.
I also did. I was like, oh, it's Green Hills? Wait a minute.
Yeah, it really, I mean, even for like an 8-bit game, it really shows some aesthetic that's very reminiscent. Like, you get the sunflowers, but they're kind of robotic, which, honestly, when you look at Green Hill Zone in 3D and like other games, it looks robotic.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's also, like, the palm trees, like, have iron bars, like, wrapped around them. It's very cool.
Yeah, and then the whole stage is, like, riveted to itself.
Yeah. It's a good time.
Yeah, I really liked Mecha Green Hill Zone. I actually really liked Aqua Planet Zone, and a lot of this stuff reminds me of Sonic CD, including in Mecha Green Hill Zone. I don't know how this came about, but the music in it is supposedly a remix of one of the previous Game Gear games, Green Hill Zone themes, and Sonic CD's Japanese opening is, like, orchestrated based on that song, and then this song makes references, the song in Mecha Green Hill Zone makes references to the Sonic CD opening. Like, you can hear
Oh, man.
note segments from Sonic CD's Japanese opening. So there's this weird, specific Japanese Sonic song that appears in 3 different games. 2 of them are on the Game Gear, and one of them is Sonic CD.
That's incredible. And also ridiculous.
Yeah, and I feel like this game makes a lot of references to Sonic CD. Like, to me, this feels like Sonic CD handheld. If Sonic 1 and 2 or Sonic 1 and 2 handheld, which they kind of aren't.
It's the Sonic Game Gear 2 Sonic CD.
Yeah, and it even feels like... So Sleeping Egg Zone and Mecha Green Hill Zone both feel like Bad Future areas, even in their color
Yeah.
palettes, which
Yeah,
I thought was really cool.
absolutely.
And then Aqua Planet Zone, the water stage for this game, reminds me of Sonic CD's water stage, where if you're playing well, you just never have to go into the water. So there's a part in Mecha Green Hill Zone, I think it's Act 2, that I really like, where you have, on the top layer, you have a slope, and then you've got one of these panels that this game has a lot, where basically it's a speed check, so if you're not moving across it fast enough, you just fall through it. And there's a bunch of rings above it, and then above that there's a little platform like floating in the air that has an invincibility thing on it, and then you just go through the rest of the level. And it just kind of feels centralizing, like the two paths converge here in a really neat way, where the bottom path springs you up onto this platform, and the top path takes you over it, and it just, to me it felt good to know where that was, because that kind of told me where I was in the level, and then I centered myself around that. And landmarks are something that I wish Sonic had a little bit more of to help you kind of ground yourself in the level. I think Sonic 3 does a better job of this, but we'll get there later.
Yeah. So there's something that I want to talk about. I don't know if you guys have picked up on it, but I'm sure at least one of you has, which is that in this game the bosses are not Eggman.
Oh, yeah.
The bosses, I mean, I'm sure the final boss is. You guys could say better than I could about whether or not that's true. Yeah, I figured.
It's Eggman twice.
It's Eggman twice? Now that is also
Kind of.
not surprising. But so all the other bosses are just friggin' robots. Just regular old robots that just take more hits and have more
I mean, they're
complicated
bigger
attacks.
robots.
Yeah, they're bigger.
Well,
they're
yeah.
like big versions of the robots you've come to know and love from this game.
Yeah, you know, the ones that I've spent this entire game getting intimate with, and
Yeah, like Motobug with Spring.
yeah, and Caterkiller but big.
Yeah,
tall.
Caterkiller, except it's Pokey from Mario
Yeah, exactly.
in every capacity.
Caterkiller but the cactus.
Also, Caterkillers aren't in this game except for that one, which is weird.
Cactakiller, maybe?
Bouncy boss robot.
Bouncy boss
Tree
robot.
crawler boss.
Yeah, Tree Crawler boss.
Sphere Obot.
Tree.
Is
Alright.
is Spherobot the guy that just shoots missiles at you like an asshole?
I think so, yeah.
There's one that shoots missiles at you, and there's one that jumps up and down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sphero's the shooter.
Oh, I just remembered what Eggman was for the final boss, and I'm hating it.
Yeah.
Oh, what was he?
Okay, do you just want me to talk about the final boss right now?
Yeah, let's talk about the final boss. No, before we talk about the final boss, I want to talk about all the other bosses. I mean, a bit more than we just did just now.
Oh, yeah.
Which is to say that most of them are pretty easy, but the tricky thing is the game doesn't just give you rings leading up to them. You have to search for the rings.
Yeah, you actually have to play a level before going to them instead of just wasting time
Yeah.
running down it.
Yeah, there's usually just like 10 rings an entire level. An entire third act, I mean.
Yeah.
But at least it's not like leaving you in the dark like Sonic 2 on the Game Gear did.
Oh,
Yeah.
you mean the worst console? I don't know why I said console. Game ever made?
Is Sonic 2 for Game Gear the worst console?
The Game Gear might be the worst console.
I think if there's a competition, it's certainly not in last place. That's all I'm saying.
Probably the worst 8-bit.
So what's interesting is you bring up Sonic CD, and I as something this feels like it takes inspiration from, and I see that, but I was going to compare it to the other Game Gear games, which is that it has an act where you get to the boss, but that act is fairly short. And unlike those two, or unlike the second one in particular, it actually gives you rings, but you have to actively search out for the rings. And now that I'm thinking about it, that's also like pretty much how it works in Sonic CD as well.
Yeah.
Although they give you a bit more rings, you don't have to search as hard for them.
Yeah, I don't know like if the team used it as reference or something, but to me there feels like a lot of Sonic CD in this game.
Yeah, I totally
Now,
see
what
that.
do you think about that, Charlie? Do you think it takes inspiration from CD?
I don't know. The only similarity I really see is the Super Peel Out. I didn't see it.
Interesting.
Plus, I like Sonic Chaos, and I don't really like Sonic CD.
That's wild to me.
Sonic Chaos Dimension.
I would say Sonic Chaos Theory.
I was hoping that this game would be called like Sonic Chaos and then something D, because that would just be perfect, but it's not.
Oh well.
It also supposedly does take place in an alternate dimension or something, like when you get the Chaos Emeralds. I don't know. The story is really weird, and there are 3 separate stories.
Oh boy.
Because there's one for the Game Gear and one for the Master System in America, and then there's just the Japanese story, and they're all kind of different.
Oh, I don't like that at all.
But what did you think of the final boss, Charlie?
I really didn't like it. I mean, it was really difficult as the final boss should be. I don't. What's a real kicker is not, I guess, the final boss. Because after you take out the final boss, which is just Eggman, a little walker that shoots 2 different kind of lasers, but then he like escapes and has this one ship that you have to hit. You only have to hit him once, but the kicker is that he'll kill you no matter how many rings you have, or if you have rings or not.
Yeah, I was confused by that because I was like, I thought I had rings in the last level.
And the first Eggman boss like shoots 2 kind of lasers. One that's like a 3 spread, and one that just bounces around the screen. And the screen one's the one that'll really get you, and you'll lose your rings unless you if you don't collect it fast enough, and if he really weird, especially when he walks backwards into it as the ring like bounces slowly toward. Because once the ring runs out of bounce, it'll just disappear.
Yeah, and it's very frequent the times when he'll sit on your ring and you just won't be able to get it. Because you can't even, like, be invincible and run through the boss in this game.
Oh, yeah.
So your ring just gets eaten a lot. The trick to that boss is when you're left of him, he fires the straight bullet, and when you're to the right of him, he fires the weird bullet, the ricochet one. I don't know if you noticed the pattern or not, but you can make it so that he only ever fires the bullet that goes to the left, and that's, to me, the only consistent way to beat the boss, is to just always stay left of him. But it's not the most difficult boss. You just have to hit him like 15 times or something, I think. And that's actually one of the biggest differences between this game and the Game Gear version, is that the bosses have different amounts of hits that they have to take before you can beat them.
Oh, jeez. I did feel the number of hits ramp up as the game progressed. Like the metal egg in the water level, I think it was.
The guy that just has like 3 springs and he jumps up and down and makes a mess.
The guy that the boss where the pigeons appear at first.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the guy on springs.
I call him seagull bullets.
Yeah.
No, that's the death ball. Spring is in an earlier level.
No, but the quote death ball is on 3 springs and it just jumps up and down. It just doesn't bounce as much.
Oh, okay.
There are 2 bosses that jump up and down. One of them shoots things, one of them doesn't.
This guy shoots things.
No, he shoots things later though. He doesn't shoot them right away, right?
No, he shoots. So there's a dude that shoots like. There's a dude who has a spring for a butt, and he shoots just to like the left and sometimes to the left in a 3-bullet pattern. But this dude, this egg boy, I don't believe he has any springs on him, but he does like bounce around, and he shoots like aimed bullets at you directly.
I interpreted the 3 things that were on him as springs.
I mean, they could be. I was too concerned with the rest of him. And he takes a bunch of hits, and then when he dies, he opens up.
And then definitely shoots things for sure.
Yeah, and shoots a bunch of missiles that, like, sort of semi-home in on you.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to hit him before they happen. Like, I don't think you actually ever even have to see his missiles. But, yeah, I liked pretty much all of the bosses except the final boss.
Alright, now talk about the final boss.
Well, we already did, pretty much. But that's because I think he's more noteworthy than any of the other bosses, so I felt like it was worth talking about him first. But one thing I do like about these bosses, I don't know how you guys felt about this, but they feel like they're all exploitable by design to me. The way that I think a lot of Sonic bosses can be sometimes, and I think that's what makes Sonic bosses really fun, is because sometimes the challenging part isn't figuring out how you're, quote, supposed to beat them, but finding out how, like, best to ignore fighting the actual boss.
Yeah.
So, for example, the guy that actually bounces definitely on the spring, that guy you can beat by just jumping to the right of him and then staying on the right of him because he'll never leave from the corner. But the trick to that is that if you're on all the way to the right of him, he won't actually ever like come out of the corner and you can't deal damage to him from the far right side. So you have to tap left just a little bit while you're bouncing like up off the screen. It's kind of weird, but I think it was kind of fun.
Yeah. And like so the first boss is another good example of this. It's just a motor bug with a spring on top of it.
Yeah, it's just an enemy it's like an upscaled enemy from the level that you have to hit more than once.
Yeah, and so the game goes, aha, you can't jump onto it to damage it like you have in previous games. And I'm like, alright, I'll just roll into it. And it's like, oh no, my weakness.
Yeah, you also don't even have to like spin dash. I mean, obviously you don't have to spin dash, but it's worth
Yeah.
mentioning that you can just like walk towards him and tap down, and he'll bounce you away, and you can walk towards him and tap down again. You can basically
Yeah.
do like a backwards Hadouken where you go from forward to down over and over again to kill the boss.
And incidentally, it's way easier to do that in this game than it is in previous Sonic games as well because of the acceleration.
Yeah, I really like what this game tries to do.
Can I just say it's really nice to see like an enemy that has its own little passive effect?
Yeah,
You can
it's
just
super
bounce
cool.
on it, and I mean, there's gonna be one in Sonic 3 Knuckles, but that one's dumb. But we'll get to that at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think we got 4 episodes before that,
Yeah,
or maybe just 3.
but
Ooh, jeez.
I don't know. I really like the concept of just fighting bigger robots instead of just always Eggman.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. It was fruitful for new designs, and it was neat to fight, like to not be chasing after Eggman but not getting him. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it felt like we were making progress.
You guys know in Yoshi's Island and New Super Mario Bros. Both do this, where you get to the end of a castle and a Magic Koopa's there, and they're like, oh yeah, well, here's a regular enemy that I'm gonna pour magic on, and they get big, and now that's a problem.
Yeah,
And
Yeah, I like
it's,
those
it's a
too.
lot of it's a lot of like, well, here's an enemy behavior that you're familiar with, but now you have to deal with it on a scale that you haven't previously, and that's making you rethink how you have to interact with it.
yeah, it's making you emotionally uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked a lot of the enemy designs in this game. There's only one that I really hated, and he's in the final level. But what I really like about this game is its usage of springs. This game feels springy as hell.
Oh yeah, it's the most springy game.
There's like regular Sonic springs that are on the ground, but unlike in previous Sonic games, these don't act as obstacles. You can just run right past them, which I like. But when you do jump on them, they function like regular springs. But then there's also buried underground springs that when you walk over them, they like bounce you, and you do this unique animation where you like flip forward. You do like a weird like 3D flip type. I don't know how to describe it, but like Sonic flips towards the camera.
It's the same sort of flip that you do when you're like being fanned upward in Sonic 3.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. But it's just like a neat little animation to see, and you feel cool when you're doing it, and they usually do it in ways that benefit you and not really hurt you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in Sonic 3, I'm very used to seeing that animation and being like, all right, well, I'm vulnerable right now, so there's going to be an enemy nearby. And very rarely does the game actually like make you vulnerable and then punish you for it.
Yeah, it happens sometimes for sure. I think especially in Sleeping Egg Zone and Mechanical Green Hill Zone.
Oh yeah,
Are they even called zones? I think they are.
Yeah, they're called zones.
Okay, yeah.
I believe so. They don't say what act number at the start, and they don't say what the zone name is at the end.
They do say the act number at the end though.
Yeah, they're like, Sonic got through 1.
And you're like, oh, that was still 1? God damn it.
Yeah, it's a good time. Yeah, tell me about the springs in Mecha Green Hill Zone, or the being vulnerable in Mecha Green Hill Zone.
Well, it's just, I guess I don't even think they have like the ground springs, but just springs in general. That level kind of like mistreats you in the way that it uses things. Like sometimes you can spring off of a Motobug into the ceiling, which is spikes, and I hated that because previously
Yeah.
Motobugs seemed like these things that you could deal with by killing them, or you could try and like use them to your advantage by risking it and find secret places, and in this one they're just like a pain.
They're like, hey, guess what? You thought you could use the spring? Well, up there there's spikes, so if you do, you just will get hurt, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, I didn't like that. There's also kind of this weird situation with springs that shoot you one way, and there are kind of 3 ways to interact with a spring that shoots you, generally speaking. You can hold forward, you can not touch anything, or you can hold backwards.
Yeah.
And a lot of these, like, if you aren't doing one of those specifically, you'll just kind of die. And that was also the first area where I noticed a lot of bottomless pits. Like, we're getting to, like, Sonic for the Game Boy Advance levels of bottomless pits here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of bottomless pits in this specific area.
Yeah, and they also had these platforms that if you stand on them for a little bit too long, they fall. And one of them takes you to invincibility, and every other one in the area takes you to death. But the first one takes you to invincibility, so you try a lot of them before determining that it's just not worth it.
Yeah. There's one bit, every once in a while there's platforms that when you stand on them, they rise. There's one bit in Mecha Green Hill Zone where you stand on it, it rises, and then you rise into the ceiling and it crushes you to death.
Oh, okay, that one, you have to jump. If you jump,
You
you
have to
break
jump.
stuff above your head, and
Okay.
you can get a secret little bit of rings, and it takes you to another part of the level. I actually really like that because I instinctively jump when I see the ceiling because I know, like, this game taught me that your head can break rocks sometimes. So I actually really like that. I guess you just didn't see it that way because you're used to Sonic games doing shit like that.
So I was like, probably, like, it would not surprise me if it turned out, this was after I died, I was like, it would not surprise me if it turned out that I could actually destroy the ceiling. But do I want to try again? The answer is no.
The answer was totally yes, 'cause it's more rings. And that stage is impossible to get 100 rings in. I think it's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that stage is very difficult to...
Oh, that's another thing to note. Speaking of impossible to get rings, Sonic's hitbox is like a pixel for grabbing rings.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The rings, or I think the rings themselves, like, the hitbox is, like, the empty space inside the loop of the ring, and it's not the ring itself.
No, not even. Like, it has to be Sonic's hitbox, like, relating to the rings, because you can literally be touching a ring and, like, not get it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, especially because they have some rings that are, like, exactly at the height where you have to jump to get them, but they're not at literally Sonic's lowest possible jump arc. They're beneath that. So you have to, like, rise into the rings and then fall into more rings instead of, like, being at the peak of your jump arc and, like, running into all of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of running back and forth.
Rings are, like, not as fun to pick up in this game as in other games.
Which is weird because they should be more fun to pick up because you have to get so many of them.
Yeah, and they're so much more important in this game than in the other games.
I think that, for me, is what crippled this game and made it unfun.
Yeah.
It's just like, I want to get 100 rings, which explains why Charlie had more fun, because he never even thought of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, I was kind of thinking that there's a lot I can access because I'm Tails, but because if you're not playing as Tails, you're playing as Sonic, you're going to have a lot harder time. Because it seemed like it was either it would probably be impossible or just really, really difficult to get rings on the boss acts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely ways to do it, but it does seem much more difficult if you're playing as Sonic.
There's there's actually, like, a whole puzzle in Aqua Planet Zone. Like, you have to solve the puzzle in Aqua Planet Zone to get rings.
When you say puzzle, do you mean the thing where you have to, like, run, like, you have to push a certain direction while being springed to find it?
No. You have to... Were you able to do that? Because I was not able to do that.
I thought maybe it was a different zone, but I thought that there's a spot where you have to, like, stop getting springed around, and then if you jump on a certain block, you can break it, and then that gets you rings and a spring into invincibility.
So, that's pretty much it. It's a level that springs you around, and if you don't get sprung around, there's a bit where you have to spin dash through a wall to break it, and that springs you up.
Oh yeah, that must have been what I was thinking of. But I know that you have to break something, but I wouldn't call that a puzzle. You just have to not get hit by the springs.
I spent a lot of time trying to figure out where, like, what to break where in order to do that. It turns out the game was trying really hard to tell me as explicitly as possible, because it put an invincibility capsule, like, right up against the wall to make you want to spin dash into it, and I just didn't do that.
I think that you just, like, maybe haven't played a 2D Sonic game in a while, because it seems like there's a lot of stuff that you're like, oh, I can't break this, then you die.
Obviously, I don't play video games. That's evident.
Yeah, you're not a real gamer.
I don't know, like... Like, full disclosure, I think I might actually just be having an off week in general.
Yeah.
But, like... So what I ended up doing for this level is I, like, reverse engineered the puzzle solution, where I started with the, like, ring capsule, like, up at the top, and then I found one of the blocks up at the top that did not have collision, and I was like, wait a second, so I can't jump high enough to get through this, but directly underneath me is a block that I might be able to, like, break through, not from this side, so let me see if I can break through it from a different side, and so I just freaking, like, did detective work until I found the answer. So it felt to me like solving a puzzle, even though the answer was spin dash where the game very clearly wants you to spin dash.
Yeah, it's literally screaming at you.
I'm hard of hearing?
You know? Again, it's not, like, wrong or anything. I just think it's a little intense to call that a puzzle. I mean, I guess it's as much as a puzzle as Sonic ever has, but it's not any more than Sonic ever has a puzzle.
In my heart, it was a puzzle, but in the game itself, it was not a puzzle.
That's like calling it a puzzle to, like, figure out how to spin dash. almost like super intuitive as Sonic, but if you're not thinking about it, maybe it's harder.
It's a puzzle, you know, like a puzzle.
Like a big old mammogram.
I've seen him spin dash in the intro. I know he can do it. How do I do it?
It's the antagonist to the movie Saw. It's a puzzle.
Anyway, yeah, I think most of the stages are pretty clear with how you find the rings if you're willing to slow down for a second. But slowing down always. So, Charlie, you said that you enjoyed this game. Do you want to try and, like, describe what you felt was fun about it?
I mean, it was fun because it was easy. Like, I didn't die so much like I did in other games.
Yeah.
And I had plenty of lives to, like, figure out what I did wrong and try to do better. And there's a lot to explore. There's a lot of rings. Like, other Sonic games, at least the 8-bit ones, just don't feel like they have enough rings. And there's a lot more around the level that you can explore, where everything just seems very stagnant and uncreative in the other game.
Yeah, like just doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
I'd 100% agree with you, especially with the whole, like, Sonic needs to collect 100 rings thing. I think a lot of the stages are designed really well to give you plenty of rings.
Yeah, I think they started with the question of how to do special stages in this game, and then worked their way backwards into how to design the levels in the game.
Yeah, which I think is really smart. If only they made the ring hitboxes a little bigger.
Yeah, that is very important for a game that was designed around you have to collect rings.
But for Tails, it's not even that bad, because Tails can fly and then gently collect as many rings as he wants. It's like really fun
Yeah.
to collect rings as Tails, until you find out that you can't do the special stages.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I got 100 rings and it was like, yeah, a 1-up, I was like, I'm not gonna play as Tails anymore. It's just not even worth it.
But it's such the right way to play it.
Yeah.
Because you just if you never figure out that Sonic can go to special stages, then the game is super fun.
So, does anyone else feel like there was a big spike in difficulty during Mecha Green Hill Zone onward?
Oh,
Yes, I did feel that.
yeah, you mean where the game just kills you for fun.
So, yeah. So there were a lot of times where, well, we talked about how Mecha Green Hill Zone has a lot of, like, traps, right? It feels like the first 3 zones are like, yeah, no, you're having fun, this is a video game. And the second half of the game are like, yeah, guess what? We're gonna make you regret life.
Yeah, you stopped playing a video game and now you're playing a Sonic game, and then it just spikes and pits and...
Yeah, Aqua Plant Zone I didn't have too much of a hard time with, except for the boss that gave me a lot of trouble as compared to all the previous ones.
Yeah, I really liked Aqua Planet Zone as a level.
I did too. But Mecha Green Hill Zone and Electric Egg Zone were both very frustrating to play through. And I ended up not beating Electric Egg Zone, not because I ran out of lives, but because I just ran out of patience and I was like, I'm done playing. Just because I got too frustrated.
I like the third act. I think it might be the third act, it might just be the second. But one of them is like tubular, if you will.
I believe that's the second zone. I mean, I think they all have tubes, but the second act... no, Act 1 is really...
Yeah, Act 1 is like a stage.
Yeah. Act 1 is a stage that has a lot of tubes in it, but Act 2 is really about the tubes.
I really liked Act 2. I felt that the tubes were actually fun in that instance, like figuring out where to go and then doing that really quickly and learning how to navigate. That was fun for me.
Yeah, I just got frustrated with how little time you had to make a decision about where to go.
I mean, it's a Sonic game, Isaiah.
That's true, but like, you're moving super fast and you can't see the intersection until you already have to. Like, I felt like there were times where I was like giving the input on where to go and the game just wasn't registering it because I was 1 frame too late.
Well, I mean, you're supposed to be holding it before you see it. Like, because
Yeah.
the way that most of this works, in my experience, is that you're able to sort of get, like, to hit a miss, to, like, not go anywhere, and then accidentally, like, fall down, and then they don't kill you right away, so you know, like, oh, well, I need to turn there then. And you kind of
Yeah.
just do that as many times as you need to throughout the level until you know what's going on. And in the second stage, I felt like that was really good because you could find secret areas, or you would get, like, dropped onto invincibility or an enemy and get popped back into something, or you'd find a room that's just full of enemies, and you're like, oh, I need to not be here.
Yeah.
And to me, it felt like the fun version of that 5th or 3rd special stage.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I can see why you would dislike it because it's kind of expecting you to already know what's going on. But I felt that it was, like, fun to learn what was going on.
Yeah. I feel like it feels very similar to that section in Stardust Speedway in Sonic CD.
I felt it was much better than that because you didn't have 4 options, you had 1.
I mean, sometimes you had 4 options, but
No, you never had 4. I don't think there's ever a point where you had to choose between up, left, or right, or down, or like. You're always like, do I go or do I just keep going? Like, do I go a direction or do I keep going the same way I'm going?
Now there are a few four-way intersections in the game.
I don't remember them, so I'd imagine that I just went past them and that worked for me.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, I think this sort of thing. I think if it was just slightly slower, I would have liked it a lot more. But
Slightly slower. Interesting.
slightly slower.
Slower is not what I ever want out of a Sonic game.
Yeah, or maybe as a compromise, if I could see more of the freaking screen.
I just think that you need to like play the level once and then you'll learn where to go. Charlie, how did you feel about it, Charlie?
It got a little confusing. I got used to it after a while, but like, I don't know if it was. I think it was the first act where like there is like a section that'll take you back to the first area or something. But there's also another system of tubes that's like right next to it, and it gets like really disorienting because you're like in these two different tube systems so next to each other, and like it's a little grating. And I remember when I was failing so much on the last boss that like I had to keep going through a tube. I had to fly up to a tube.
Oh yeah, the one
just
where
to
you
get
have
the rings and then go all the way down. And I can't just land on the platform that takes me to the boss. I have to wait for the rising platform to take me up.
Yep.
So it's just a waste of time.
Yeah, it just wastes your time again, like the third stage, the third special stage. But that's not what I'm talking about. That one, I do like the jump you have to do, just because it's the last jump in the game, basically. So it makes sense to be challenging. But the fact that it makes you wait after that is awful.
Yeah.
Isaiah, you never got there, but basically, the last third act is very, very simple.
Yeah.
You
I'm
walk...
looking at the map for it right now.
Oh, okay, yeah, so you can see. You hit that little thing, and it acts like the carts from Sonic Game Gear 2, where it just carries you forward, and then you can jump, and that's your only real input.
Yeah.
And like, you have to make a jump off of that, and if you time it right, you can shoot into a tube. But if you don't time it right, you either die, or you have to just go up like a long platform. But if you do it right, you get rings. You get 10 rings like you would in any other boss, and then you go down this like short little way, and then you basically fall into a pit and hit a platform, and then you just have to wait for the platform to take you up to the boss.
Oh, yeah.
All in all, I think it's 30 seconds from the beginning of that to the boss every time you die, and it's really, really bad.
Oh, that is frustrating. That's like, do you remember the first boss in, it was either Sonic 1 Game Gear or Sonic 2, where, like, you almost fall, like, to your death, and then Eggman saves you, and then just, like, slowly brings you up this giant cliff, like, to the top of the map?
Yeah, Sonic 2.
Yeah, that's the bad one. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. It reminds me of that experience.
It reminds me of it, except that you get input in this one. Like, I like that jump a lot. I think that's a fun jump to learn how to do. I think that it's kind of forgiving, like, for what it is. Because that platform that you see, you will generally land on either that platform or the other side, especially if you know what you're aiming for.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is also, like, basically the last jump in the game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's the last jump, so I think it should be challenging, but I don't think it's for that. It's not so challenging. I think it's pretty forgiving.
Yeah.
It's just really what comes after it that bothers me, because it just wastes so much time. I think that there's a part in Mecha Hills boss area, like Act 3, if you will, that's a lot worse. I like this part initially. You're running down the like speed platforms, and you have to time your jumps right, and that's cool. And then there's a ring box above you, and if you time your jumps really well, you can get that ring box. What I hate though is that if you don't time your jumps right, like if you time them too late and you hit the wall on these little speed check platforms, you will
just fall through.
Yeah, you will die on both of them, and I kind of hate that a lot because it's very stupid.
Oh, jeez.
And it's very easy to like if you mistime the jump, you just slam into the wall, and then you have to watch Sonic like get drunk off his ass and then die in a hole.
Also, what sucks is like even if you like get on the platform, if you don't like time jump afterwards, you will just fall through it again and die.
Yeah, if you're not moving at a certain speed.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah, so I just like that a lot more than this minecart one, because if you're scared, you can really just hold right and then like jump back to try and get up the tube. I think it's a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot more fun though to get good at the jump, and you will be getting good at that jump because that boss is hard.
All right.
What was your favorite stage, Charlie?
My favorite stage. Let me get that list in my head again.
There's Aquamarine, there's Gigopolis, there's Sleeping Egg, there's Mechanical Green Hill Zone, as Isaiah called it.
It's probably a tie between Sleeping Egg Zone and Mecha Green Hill Zone.
Yeah, I like Mecha Green Hill Zone's background a lot. I really liked, actually, the Aqua, what is it called?
Aqua Planet.
Aqua Planet,
Yeah.
yeah.
Aqua Planet I liked a lot more than basically any other water stage in Sonic.
Oh yeah, it's the best
yeah,
water
yeah,
stage
yeah.
ever.
Oh, that reminds me. Something I really appreciate that I don't think you see in almost any Sonic game is like you skip on the water.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's big.
it's
Although
really
you can't fly underwater.
cool. As Tails, no, you can't, because it works really, really differently in this game.
So Aqua Planet Zone, I think one of the reasons that it is like good for a water level is most water levels in Sonic are very like horizontal, you know, and even Tidal Tempest in Sonic CD was also very horizontal. It had sections where you could fall infinitely, like in a loop, like you would loop back to the top.
Yeah, because it's like showing you how the sausage is made with Sonic games, where sometimes they just vertically loop.
Yeah, and like most water levels want to be very vertical so that you can get deep underwater or get really high above water and like make the level be about climbing out of the water. In the case of Chemical Plant Zone, I think that's largely what about half of the game was about.
I would not call Chemical Plant Zone a water level.
Well, it certainly has water level components in it.
Not if you're good. Like, you never have to go in the water in Chemical Plant Zone, I don't think.
What's the name of the later level in Sonic 2 that has a lot more water?
Isn't it the mine one? I don't remember. It's been so long.
It's the one with like Greek pillars and stuff.
Yeah, I know. We know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's the actual
that
water
one,
level.
Yeah, that one's the actual water level. That one's also more horizontal than Chemical Plant Zone is. But this one's very horizontal, where it's like, yeah, the bottom half of the level is water and the top half of the level is just not water, and you can just you can stay dry the entire time. And you're basically playing two separate levels. But what's interesting is they go ham with the two separate levels thing. The kinds of obstacles you face are very different from each other.
Yeah.
You know, on the bottom half you have a lot more springs. You have those friggin' spears that go in and out that act kind of like spikes. And on the top half you have like mechanical pelicans. And there's a lot more rings on the top half as well. So it even really incentivizes you to go down there.
Yeah.
Or go up there, I mean.
Yeah, I really like that level, and I also like the background for it. It's the only one where I noticed the background because there's like the whole thing where it's got land on the top, I think. Or maybe it's just clouds.
Yeah.
There's something up there that's animated that looks really cool.
I would say that my favorite zone was probably Mecha Green Hill Zone, just because I know it's a lot more like malicious than all of the other levels before it, and even half of them after it.
Yeah.
But but like it's there's something very interesting to me about like, oh yeah, you know Green Hill Zone? What about that? But the level itself has been robotized.
Yeah,
Like-
it's really cool.
Yeah. You have the palm trees, right, in Mecha Green Hill Zone are the exact, like, those leaves are the exact shape as in Sonic 1's Green Hill Zone, but instead of being organic leaves, it's like just green shaded metal that's been bent at very like sharp angles.
Yeah.
And it's very cool. And so like it makes sense that it's a lot more malicious, because it's like, oh yeah, that place that you're really familiar with that's very friendly to you, well, it's not so friendly anymore. The entire level is going to just be mean to you. And so I just really like that conceptually.
How do you guys feel about Sonic's sprite art, like his animations and stuff?
Can't tell you.
I really didn't think super hard about it.
Well, no, see, I meant to, like, try out Sonic when I finished with Tails, but I guess I got so winded from the final boss that I just forgot and I just didn't want to play it again.
I mean, you can tell me how you feel about Tails' art. They're pretty similar in style.
It was alright. Nothing really to write home about. He's not as adorable as he is in other iterations.
To me, it feels very, very far apart from even the other Game Gear games, let alone, like, the Genesis ones.
In a good way, or just in an interesting way, or in a bad way?
I think it's generally, like, worse, but it definitely, there's some stuff that I like. Like, when you're running along, what do they call them? What do we call these? The little platforms that speed check you.
I think we just call them speed checks.
Okay, sure. Yeah, the speed check platforms. When you're running along those, you get a unique animation that's like a little chibi version of your character that's at a cool angle. I
Yeah.
like that a lot, but pretty much...
That looks nice, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much everything else doesn't look great. I really like how at the end of stages characters animate, because they never get to their full speed animation, they just really quickly do their like walking animation.
Nice.
So you just see Sonic like finally slap his feet against the ground at high speeds, and then like stars come out.
I do like that stars come out. That's just a cool thing. So I just played through a little bit of Sonic Chaos, and now I'm booting up Sonic Game Gear so I can just compare the two real quick. That's interesting that you think that Chaos like it looks worse, because I definitely think the Sonic 1 Game Gear has like a lower fidelity to it. It uses simpler colors, and it's more zoomed out, so you get to see more of the world. But as a result, you just have less detail you can spend on Sonic, and so it kind of looks like a little bit of a bit crunched, scaled down version of Sonic.
Right, but it still looks like Sonic.
Yeah, all of the motion that's implied, like when you run at max speed, your feet move in this like very satisfying looking circle in Sonic 1 Game Gear. Whereas it's not nearly as satisfying in Sonic Chaos.
Yeah, I think Sonic Chaos just looks less like the Sonic that I'm used to. He looks like he shaved his head.
Yeah.
And Tails, also when Tails spins, he doesn't have tails, which I mean obviously that's not part of the Game Gear thing at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's weird to me to see Tails without tails, ever.
Sonic looks like he shaved his head. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, like, would you agree, Charlie, that it looks like Sonic shaved his head?
I gotta look at it, like I said. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. He shaved his head. He's got smaller ears. He looks like tinier. He looks like he worked out. It's weird.
He looks tinier, but also he takes up more space on the screen.
Yeah, well, I mean proportionally, he just looks weird.
Yeah. I would say that I don't think he looks bad, really. I just think that he doesn't. I don't know.
I think it looks bad just because it's like not the graphics, if you will, aren't great.
Yeah.
Like the sprite art for a Genesis game is way better, and I'm not gonna just like give it a pass. Like, oh, it's good for a handheld. Like, it doesn't look great. I think the Sonic 1 and 2 for the Game Gear remind me enough of Sonic for the Genesis that I'm willing to just be like, yeah, it's the small version. But this one, like, they could have done better, I think.
I mean, it's interesting because this game and Sonic's 1 and 2, which I believe use the same sprite work.
What, Sonic's 1 and 2 as in Sonic for the Game Gear? No, they look completely different.
I'm gonna check because I don't remember them looking different. But all three of the Genesis Sonic games just use different sprite art for Sonic.
Oh wait, you're saying Sonic 1 and 2 for the Game Gear use the same sprite artwork for themselves?
Yeah. Oh, that's not true. No, Sonic looks completely different on Sonic 2 Game Gear as compared to Sonic 1.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought they all look different.
Yeah, they all look different. But it's interesting because you have the same hardware, the same level of graphical fidelity. And in the case of these Game Gear games, Sonic is a different size in all three games.
Yeah.
And he just keeps getting bigger. But on the Sega Genesis, all three of the Sonic games, Sonic is the same size, I'm pretty sure. But they still change the way he looks.
Close to it. I think Sonic 3, he's a little bit bigger than he is in Sonic 1 and 2.
I'm not sure. I'll do the math when we actually get to Sonic 3. I'm not going to worry about that too much right now.
Okay, so you guys are right. The guy, the Death Egg quote guy, the boss thing, definitely does shoot balls. I've never been hit by one of the balls ever. I didn't even notice them after 2 times fighting him.
Oh man, yeah, no, he's killed me a lot of times actually, because I couldn't solve that Aqua Planet Rings puzzle.
Yeah, the puzzle where you just fucking get the invincibility.
I couldn't solve the puzzle.
I do see that he looks like he is shaved. Sorry.
No, it's good.
Don't apologize.
Also, random piece of trivia: this game is called Sonic and Tails in Japan.
Yeah, it's like the
Interesting.
prequel to Sonic and Knuckles.
Dude, I want to put Sonic and Knuckles on top of this Game Gear cartridge so that I can get Sonic and Tails and Knuckles.
Sonic and Tails and Knuckles and Knuckles. For the Xbox.
Yeah.
So, I think now is the time we should say thumbs up, thumbs down, yeah?
Yeah. I'm gonna give this a thumbs down. I think I have to.
I'm giving it a thumbs
Alright.
up.
I'm also giving it a thumbs down.
Okay. Now let's expand a little bit from there.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that if I had played the Master System version, I might think differently because, like Isaiah said, there's the camera, and I'm wondering
Yeah.
if the hitboxes for the rings are different, even though that wasn't listed on the article I read.
I think the camera difference is the most important thing to me personally. I just want to say before we unpack this that I think it's interesting because normally Charlie gives stuff thumbs down when Steven and I give it thumbs up. But this time he was thumbs up and we are both thumbs down. I think that's very interesting.
Why do you think that is, Charlie?
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say that I hate challenge, but maybe that's a reason.
I also I don't think that challenging platformers are very fun generally. I like challenging games that are like combat based. I like it less in platforming games.
So I have been known to enjoy a challenging platformer or two, specifically two. Super Meat Boy and the End is Nigh. But what those games have in common is that your character is extremely tiny and the camera is super far out and you can see all of your obstacles. And that is the exact opposite of what is true in Sonic Chaos.
But it's weird because you're describing the game as if it's difficult, and I think Charlie and I both found it really easy.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is interesting. Because I think the first half of the game is very easy, but the second half of the game I just found increasingly frustrating. I was like, I just didn't feel, I wasn't having a good enough time to justify continuing to play the game, you know?
I can understand that. I really just kind of enjoyed a lot of it. Like, definitely the last zone was really hard, but like I kind of like the feel of this game where I can just kind of pick it up and just kind of play through it.
Yeah, it feels like a great handheld game.
Yeah.
Right, it's like Super Mario Land, or not, I would say Kirby's Dream Land, but that's a little too easy.
Kirby's Dream Land is easy unless you play it to win, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I really do think that this is the Game Gear version of Super Mario Land. Like, it is to Super Mario Land, like, it's the Sega version of that.
Yeah, it's got mode 7 and everything, you know, right?
Yeah, alright.
Sorry. It's okay, sorry. It's okay.
Listen, Mode 7 isn't even for the Game Boy. That's the Game Boy Advance you're thinking of.
I know.
I know.
Wow.
So, yeah, I think for me, I don't know, it just kind of didn't, it didn't jive with me.
I think that what the game does best is offer a unique experience with the springs and Sonic's rocket shoes, as well as I think it is a different application of the tubes that take you different places.
Yeah, I did like the rocket shoes.
Rocket shoes are great.
I was into that.
Charlie, sorry you didn't get to see the rocket shoes.
No, it's okay. I remember them. I like the spring that takes you places, though.
Yeah, the spring that you sit on is great. I think it's more fun than the spring mode in Mario Galaxy.
Oh my god, it's definitely more fun than that awful mode in Mario Galaxy. The worst part of Mario Galaxy. Sorry, I just got worked up.
I also like how if you're really good at playing as Sonic, you can get to the second special stage and find out about the spring before mechanical, or I guess it's Sleeping Egg Zone that you find out about the spring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you get to experience it in a unique way. Yeah, I think this game is really cool. I just can't say that I enjoyed it a whole lot more than any other Sonic game.
Yeah. The other thing is, and this is partially because it's a Game Gear game, but the music really didn't grab me.
I like Mechanical Egg Zone's theme.
I was trying to like listen to something. I was trying to grab onto something musically, and I just couldn't the entire time.
The boss themes were nice. That's like the one that I remember getting caught with.
Yeah, I like the boss themes. I made a really weird sound with my mouth just now. I like the boss themes in the Game Gear games quite a bit. When I was layering the music for the Game Gear episodes, I was like, this boss music is crazy.
I do want to say, this is not about Sonic Chaos. This is about Sonic CD's like thing with the music being based on a Game Gear Sonic 1, right?
Yeah. What is the song called? Toot Toot Sonic Warrior? Is that just what it's called?
Yeah.
No, it's called Sonic You Can Do Anything, right?
Yeah, it's called You Can Do Anything.
Yeah.
But so I heard a few years back a like extension remix of that song that just took the verse before the chorus and split it into two different verses because it was long enough to be that. And at the very end of that song, it just cut into what sounded like a Genesis version of the song. And that's very interesting to me because there is no Genesis version of the song, but there is a Game Gear version of it.
Yeah, kinda.
And now there's almost two Game Gear versions of it. It's very silly.
Well, do you guys have anything else you want to say about the game?
I might try it again later and see if my opinion of it improves.
I'd suggest playing it as Tails and just ignoring the rings and trying to get the levels as fast as possible. Because when I did that, I actually had quite a bit of fun. Like, I think that if I were taking the game as just the Tails segment, I'd give this game a thumbs up.
Okay.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, but when you bring in Sonic into the fold and you bring in, like, trying to get the rings, it just becomes, like, a mess. And it's weird because you don't even have to play Sonic. Like, they could have just made this, like, Tails chaos.
Well, that wouldn't have sold as much.
I would have bought 2 copies. I don't even have a Sega Game Gear.
Oh, don't worry, we'll get into Tails games.
I'm so ready for Sky Patrol.
Question: if Sega comes out with a Tails, like a Miles Tails per Hour game, do you buy it? Like, they come out with it next month.
If they come out with Tails Adventure 3, I'm all over that.
Tails Adventure 3, do you buy 2 copies?
Yeah, I bought 2 copies of Sonic Mania. Well, technically, Summer
Alright.
bought me a copy, and then I bought Plus. Because I was like, this needs
Yeah.
to get support. I was like,
I'm
maybe
into
if I
it, I'm
keep
into it.
buying them, they'll keep making characters.
Sonic Mania Plus Plus.
Sonic Mania Plus EX.
Sonic Mania Sharp.
Freaking Guilty Gear. Oh my god.
I was going for a programming joke, but that works.
Well, the Guilty Gear has a Guilty Gear XX Sharp Accent Core
Oh.
as a game.
Oh my god. But yeah, honestly, really, this game is just Sonic Mania minus minus.
This game is Sonic Mania minus minus because Sonic CD is Sonic Mania minus.
Yeah, and this game is Sonic CD minus.
Yeah. Sonic Mania Plus
Yeah.
is Sonic CD plus plus.
Alright, eventually we're gonna get there. So Sonic Mania Plus is Sonic Chaos Sharp.
Sonic Mania Plus. Sonic Chaos is Sonic Mania Plus minus 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 minus.
So now I'm really interested in like plus, minus, and sharp as like Roman numerals, where you have plus, 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 sharp, and then sharp plus, and then like it just keeps going. You have 2 sharps, and then after the 3rd sharp, jeez, I don't know. The joke is dead. So anyway, that is gonna do it for our episode, unless we have anything else to say.
Sonic CD is Sonic Mania Eve.
Sonic Mania E.
So, my name is Isaiah. You can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/IsaiahGames. That's ISIAH Games. Games is spelled the way the word games is spelled. Normally, I tweet generally not very good jokes, and sometimes I tweet about game development because I am a game developer. If you want to follow a Twitter account of mine that is just about game development, you can find me at twitter.com/BlastLabs. That's BLASTLABS. That is my video game company's official Twitter account.
You can send emails to our email at nospin-zone@gmail. That's NOSPINDASHZONE. No-spin-zone. There's no symbols or anything.
I think probably they know how to spell the name of the podcast that they are currently listening to.
Well, here's the thing. Spin dash is sometimes one word and sometimes it has a hyphen. And I don't know if hyphens...
Oh yeah, that's fair.
I don't know if hyphens
That's
are
fair.
tracked by Gmail.
This is a no hyphen zone.
The no hyphens. I don't know. But it's also just nice to spell things.
No, you're right. You're right.
And then we'll have a Twitter. It'll be linked in the description. Charlie, is there anything you want to talk about?
Follow me at at draws Charlie. I draw stuff, sometimes inappropriate stuff. So
Watch out.
Yeah.
keep your phone away
Watch out.
from your boss. Also,
It's coming.
don't be on your phone at work.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, cut that out.
Oh, you know what you should... No, I'm not going to cut it out. It's an important message. Charlie, do you know what you should... You know what you should do? You should do a drawing based on our game of the week every, Thursday or Friday.
Yeah, I'll have Sonic just dying on the ground while Tails is having fun in the air.
Yeah, Sonic, buried under rings in a tube, and then Tails, above the Aqua Planet Zone.
So I want to ask a question for our viewers because I've been doing that for the past few weeks. I want to keep doing that.
Yeah, go for it.
My question this time, and you can either tweet at the No Spin to Zone podcast Twitter, or you can tweet at me. Don't tweet at Blast Labs; it's not going to answer. Did you play this game? This is before the podcast, or are you going to play the game? Because one of us gave it a thumbs up, so it's got something going on for it. Because this was one of those games that even when I had Sonic Gems Collection, it just kind of flew under the radar for me. I didn't really give it much thought. So I'm just wondering how many people who are listening to a podcast about Sonic games played this specific Sonic game.
Yeah, I think, we've gotten off into the weeds a bit with, Sega Sonic and stuff like that. I think that of the games, this is one of the, least known ones that we've played. And it always had a particular allure to it because of that. I think Sonic Chaos
Yeah.
and Sonic Triple Trouble have always super interested me, especially because of Knack the Weasel in Triple Trouble, but we'll get there later.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, these games were interesting because of how like weird and out of the way they were.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
give me your guys' rating. Really, Charlie, you specifically, give me your rating of the games that we played so far.
Oh, I mean like rankings?
Yeah, we'll get yours and we'll maybe get Isaiah's next week.
Okay,
Alright.
but people aren't allowed to be angry because I forgot my rankings.
Okay,
Dude, this is the internet. People are gonna be angry.
that's fine.
Alright,
The games
so...
we've played thus far are Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah,
Sonic-
I know what games we played. It's just the rankings I'm not gonna remember.
Well, I was just gonna relist them for anyone
Well,
listening.
Oh.
So
go
the games
ahead.
we've played are Sonic the Hedgehog for the Sega Genesis. That's the original. We've played Sonic the Hedgehog for the Sega Game Gear, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Sega Game Gear, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Sega Genesis, Sega Sonic the Hedgehog for arcade cabinets in Japan, Sonic the Hedgehog CD, and today Sonic Chaos.
That is 7 games.
Yes.
Alright. So I'm gonna go with Sonic 2 Genesis, Sonic Chaos, Sega Sonic, Sonic CD Game Gear, Sonic 1. Sorry, what was the last one I just said?
Sonic
1.
CD Game Gear, which I assume you just mean Sonic
Yeah,
CD.
so Sonic CD and then Sonic 1 Game Gear. I know I gave Sonic 1 a thumbs up and Sonic CD a thumbs down, but shut up.
Also, what about Sonic 2 for the Game Gear? Where's that at?
It's on the bottom right above
It's-
Sonic 1.
It's actually
Genesis.
so far down the list that it doesn't make the list.
It fell into a bottomless pit in mechanical Green Hills.
Yeah.
Anyway, just get yours, okay?
Well, we'll
I already
do
get mine.
we'll do one. We'll do ours next time, unless you guys really want to do yours. Isaiah, do you want to do one?
okay, that's fine. Well,
I think I gave my list last time.
Yeah, I thought you did. I feel like one list is good for each time.
Yeah. Well, cause here's what I know is I know if I give a list a second time, it will just be a completely different order from last time. Because not only do I not remember what I said, I don't remember how I feel.
I think that's what's fun about it, because it shows how like objectivity and subjectivity just whip your like memory all over the
Yeah.
place.
So if I ever say a list order that upsets you and you want to get mad, just wait like a month and I'll give a different order.
All I know is that Sega Sonic and Sonic CD are at the top of my list for sure, and Sonic Game Gear 2 is very much so at the bottom.
I think Sonic Genesis 2 is at the top of my list.
That's not a bad
same,
call.
as I just said.
Yeah.
I just like the weird stuff. I think Sonic 2 is right under Sega Sonic the Hedgehog for me.
Yeah.
I just felt like those two games were such fresh experiences, like both in terms of my history with Sonic and just like what we've been playing, that they really got me. But yeah, we're gonna be playing Sonic Spinball next time. So
Woo!
get ready
I'm
for
gonna
that.
play both versions of Sonic Spinball, assuming that life doesn't destroy me like it did this week.
Well, I think we'll be focusing on the Genesis version, but we'll check out the Mega Drive version.
Okay. I just want to let you know there's two possibilities as to what state I'll be in next time. Either I will have played both like a lot, or I will have played one for like 2 hours right before we started recording, depending on how life has decided to treat me at the time.
Yeah. Oh my God, Sonic Spinball's been on so many things.
Yeah, dude. All right. Spin you later.
Oh,
That's our
might
new
cut that one
outro
out.
quote.
Peel you out
That's-
later. Bye.
I'll peel you off.
Make like a Sonic and super peel out away from this podcast.
Tails Airman you guys later.
More like
Oh, God.
Miles.
Apparently they called him Miles Power in the Master System version.
That's incredible.
Goodbye.
Okay.
We'd like to thank the LAG Network for making our episodes available on platforms like iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and lots more. If you're listening on YouTube and you'd like to keep up with our episodes on one of these audio platforms, just search for the LAG Radio Network and follow their feed.